Welcome to Stoic Philosophy for Life. This is not just a place to listen to books, it's a space to feel them with your soul. Here, we illuminate your mind with timeless lessons. Awaken your inner strength, cultivate self-minus discipline, and guide your journey of personal growth. Every word is carefully chosen to reach what you're truly seeking: peace, clarity, and lasting transformation. If this feels like the place for you, hit subscribe and walk this path with us every single day. Now, put on your headphones, take a deep breath, and begin the journey of renewing your mind and your life. Have you ever promised yourself that tomorrow would be different? That you would finally wake up early, stop procrastinating, start that habit you keep avoiding? And yet, when the time comes, you give in to the same excuses, the same distractions, the same resistance. It feels like a cycle you cannot break, like every day begins with good intentions and ends in silent disappointment. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are just stuck in a loop, and no one ever taught you how to break it. But imagine this: what if discipline was not a battle you fight, but a rhythm you learn to move with? What if, instead of trying to force change, you learned how to build it into your bones quietly, steadily, every single day? In this video, you will discover how to develop real, lasting self-minus discipline without relying on motivation, guilt, or burnout. You will learn how Stoic wisdom, brain science, and daily rituals can help you take control of your time, your habits, and your life. And by the end, you will have a simple, practical system you can start using today, no matter where you are starting from. If you stay with me, this could be the beginning of a new direction. One where your actions finally match your potential. Most people think self-minus discipline is about pushing harder, forcing yourself to grind through discomfort. But discipline is not brute force. It is alignment. It is the quiet harmony between your future goals and your present choices. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Real discipline begins there, with the realization that your power lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling how you respond to it. Your alarm clock, your impulses, your cravings, your doubts. Those are not enemies to defeat. They are opportunities to train. Think of self-minus discipline like a muscle. You cannot build it overnight. You do not grow it by punishing yourself, but by showing up consistently, especially when it is hard. The same way a muscle gets stronger under resistance, your willpower strengthens each time you say no to what is easy and yes to what matters. You do not need to overhaul your life. You just need to win one moment, then another. Let those moments stack. Imagine a man standing at the edge of a cold river. He knows he needs to cross, but the water bites at his feet. Everything in him wants to turn back, to wait for better conditions. But he steps forward anyway, not because it is comfortable, but because it is necessary. That is discipline. Not waiting to feel ready, but moving forward because it matters. And every day, life gives you these small rivers to cross. Moments where your future hangs on what you choose in the present. So how do you practice it daily? Begin small. Choose a non-minus negotiable. One simple action you commit to every morning, no matter how you feel. It could be making your bed, drinking a glass of water, writing for 5 minutes. The act itself does not matter as much as the signal it sends: I do what I said I would do. That is where trust is rebuilt. That is where discipline begins. From there, expand. Track your behavior, not your emotions. Do not wait for motivation, it is a poor master. Instead, build systems that pull you forward. Use your environment, your habits, your schedule as tools to shape behavior. Create friction for your bad habits. Create ease for the good ones. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That clarity, the decision of who you want to become, must come before the effort. And yes, you will stumble. You will break your streaks. You will forget your routines. That is part of the process. What matters is not perfection. What matters is how quickly you will return. Each time you come back to your practice, you reinforce your identity. You say, "This is who I am, even when I fall." That is real strength. That is how discipline becomes part of you. If this message moved you, share it with someone who needs it. A single spark can light someone else's fire. Every journey starts with awareness. Not with blame. Not with judgment. Just noticing where you begin. Perhaps your hours vanishing into mindless scrolling. Perhaps your energy drained by indecision. Or maybe your dreams are buried under commitments you never made. We all carry these moments like invisible weights. They are not failures, they are signals. They are the places where your discipline is begging to be born. Take a moment and visualize your day 3 months from now. The habits you cultivate today are already reshaping that future. Now bring your attention back. Right now matters more than any plan. Because discipline is not a ticket to a distant destination, it is the path you walk in every step. Marcus Aurelius taught that the impediment to action advances action. The very friction you feel when you want to change is what propels you forward if you choose it. That friction is not resistance to avoid. It is the echo of possibility, something within you reaching for a new direction. To harness it, you need a compass, not just desire. Ask yourself 2 questions each night. What went well today? Just observe. These are your signposts. They reveal the parts of your life where discipline is present, and where it is still silent. Your mission tonight is to learn. Your mission tomorrow is to apply. Think of your habits as the architecture of your days. The architects we most admire, Napoleon. Seneca understood that life is sculpted in routine. Napoleon insisted upon structure so precise that his soldiers knew when they would sleep, eat, rotate, watch, and march. But he also believed that discipline is freedom. This is the paradox. By choosing boundaries for yourself, you liberate your attention, your energy, your potential. When you have a container for your time, you can pour your efforts into what matters, not what distracts. So today, let's begin designing your container. Choose 3 anchors for your day. An anchor is a ritual, a signal, a mini-minus commitment you made to yourself. It could be the moment you wake, the moment you begin work, the moment you return home. At each anchor, pause. Breathe. Recognize, this is mine. I choose. And when you consistently choose minute after minute, you validate that your life lives within your direction, not someone else's. There is a story about a man who trained for years to master running. He did not start with a marathon. He started with a lap. Then another. He celebrated his consistency, not his distance. Over time, those laps became miles. His legs remembered the rhythm long before his mind realized the distance. Your discipline works the same way. It is the repetition, the returning again and again, that gives it strength, not the intensity of 1 - off efforts. And there is science behind this. Neuroscientists tell us that each time you repeat an action in a consistent context, you reinforce the neural pathway associated with it. After enough repetitions, that pathway becomes a highway, fast, automatic, effortless. This is how habits form. When discipline becomes a habit, it no longer relies on willpower. It becomes default. Your environment becomes your ally. Your calendar becomes a coach. Your cues become catalysts. But structure alone is not enough. You must also tend to your emotional reserve. Discipline is not about draining yourself for achievement. It is about building a reservoir. Recharge is part of the system. You cannot run a river dry. You need space to breathe, reflection to recalibrate, rest to reset. Seneca reminded himself that a mind at peace can endure hardship better than one at restlessness. Dedicate time to stillness. I walk without purpose. 20 minutes with your journal. A moment where you are not earning, proving, doing. You are simply being. This is also where support plays its part. You are not meant to build discipline in isolation. We are social beings. Whoever you spend time with influences who you become. Choose a circle that holds you accountable not to perfection, but to consistency. Share your intent. Make yourself known to your own ideals. Write it down. Say it out loud. Let it become something beyond your private wish. When your promise is witnessed, even by one other person, you step into a larger reality. But remember, accountability is not punishment, it is commitment. If you miss a day, do not unravel your entire before minus and minus after. Just return to the baseline. Reset with kindness. One of the greatest betrayals of discipline is the belief that a slip disqualifies you. It does not. It just informs you. A wise practitioner does not stop at the first wave. They swim through the current. They return to the anchor. They recommit to the rhythm. So this moment is important. Wherever you are listening, however your day feels, you can begin. Look at your calendar. Choose your 3 anchors. Define your rituals. Name them. Write them down. Show someone. And tonight, ask, did I honor them? And if not, why? Then tomorrow, return with curiosity, not guilt. Every story about discipline is a story about showing up. And every time you show up, you make the story yours. You are not building discipline for its own sake. You are building it for your life. For the person you long to be. For the impact you wish to have. For the legacy you will leave, quietly but meaningfully. And each discipline moment is a stone in that foundation. They will never show up on the scoreboard, but they will hold the weight of your future. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Your mind is worth the practice. Your life is worth the effort. There comes a moment when you realize the cost of your inaction is far greater than the pain of your effort. That moment is often quiet. It does not announce itself with fireworks or a revelation. It arrives slowly, like the ache in your chest when another day slips by and you feel no closer to who you want to be. That is where many people give up. They call it lack of motivation. But what they are really facing is a kind of spiritual erosion, the slow fading of self-trust. And that erosion is always repaired the same way, through discipline. If you're here right now, it means you're not waiting for life to happen. You're preparing for it. 2025 won't just be another year. It could be your breakthrough year, if you stay open to growth and committed to the work. Let this be your reminder you're not behind. You're just getting ready. Let us not confuse discipline with punishment. Discipline is a form of devotion. Devotion to your highest self. Devotion to the life you claim you want. And if that life matters to you, then every action you take today either brings you closer or pushes you further away. There is no neutral. That is the hard truth. But the good news is that the smallest act of discipline, waking on time, writing one sentence, choosing to walk instead of scroll, can begin the return. It is not about grand gestures. It is about signals. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you send a signal that says, I matter. My goals matter. My future is in my hands. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus did not speak of controlling the world. He spoke of mastering one's responses, one's mind, one's will. He said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because improvement requires breaking patterns. And breaking patterns often looks odd to others. Waking early when your friends sleep in. Saying no when others indulge. Writing when no one is watching. These are not glamorous. But they are necessary. And if you care more about being respected by others than by your future self, you will stay stuck. Discipline, then, is also the courage to stand apart. It is the willingness to walk the unpopular path. And not because you enjoy suffering, but because you understand something most people do not. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is being able to choose what is right, even when you do not feel like it. That is real power. Not the power of domination, but the quiet power of alignment. So what gets in the way? Usually it is emotional fog. You feel tired, overwhelmed, stressed, and your habits react. You reach for comfort instead of clarity. This is not weakness. It is a sign that your system needs attention. The solution is not just willpower. It is recovery. If you want to be disciplined, take care of your energy like a sacred resource. Sleep well. Move your body. Clear your environment. These are not side tasks. They are prerequisites for clarity. And then build the plan. Not a perfect plan. Not a life overhaul. A simple, steady system that supports your goals. Begin with 3 questions each morning. What must I do today? Then, protect that structure. Treat your commitments like appointments with your future. Do not negotiate with them. Show up. But what if you still fail? What if you forget, fall, delay? Then you do what disciplined people do. You begin again. Immediately. Without shame. Without drama. You reset. You forgive. You recommit. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. Often we give up because we expect discipline to feel good. But it rarely does in the beginning. It feels awkward, resistant, dull. That is part of the recalibration. Consider a metaphor. Imagine a sword being forged. It is placed into fire. Then hammered. Then cooled. Then again into fire. Again hammered. Again cooled. This cycle shapes the blade. Makes it strong. Sharp. Unbreakable. That is what discipline does to the mind. It strengthens you through repetition. Through pressure. Through heat. Not to break you. but to form something sharper than you ever thought possible. That is why one of the most powerful tools in building daily discipline is reflection. At the end of each day, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Ask, did I act in alignment with who I want to be? If yes, honor it. If not, adjust. Write down one win, one loss, one intention. This tiny ritual keeps your compass calibrated. You are not just living. You are shaping. Like a sculptor with chisel in hand, slowly removing what is not essential. Over time, your self-minus concept will shift. You will no longer see yourself as someone trying to be disciplined. You will see yourself as someone who is disciplined. That identity becomes magnetic. It draws consistency. You will act in alignment not out of pressure, but because it feels natural. That is the quiet superpower of habit. But remember, this process is deeply personal. No one can define your discipline but you. For one person, it may be rising at dawn. For another, it may be saying no to toxic people. For you, it may be writing each day, honoring your word, or simply not giving up. Whatever it is, name it. Own it. Return to it daily. Discipline is not something you stumble upon. It is something you return to over and over until it becomes your second nature. And when you feel discouraged, when you feel like none of it is working, pause and look back. Look at the days you showed up. The times you did the hard thing. They are not small. They are proof. Proof that you are capable of far more than you think. Let those moments remind you you do not need more time. You need more direction. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be persistent. If this voice has helped you see something more clearly, send it to someone walking their own road. We rise better when we rise together. Some days, the hardest battle is not against the world, but against your own hesitation. That quiet voice that says, it's okay to skip just this once, or you can try again tomorrow. It does not shout. It whispers. It speaks in comfort, in logic, in delay. But here is the truth: that voice is not your friend. It is the gatekeeper of every life you never lived. And every time you obey it, you strengthen it. But every time you defy it, even with the smallest act, you weaken it. Discipline is not about being fearless. It is about moving forward, even while fear is still speaking. Many people wait for the right conditions, the right mood, the right moment. But discipline teaches you to begin before you are ready. Marcus Aurelius understood this clearly. He wrote at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. He did not speak of motivation. He spoke of duty, purpose, identity. The sun rises whether you feel like waking or not. Your life unfolds with or without your consent. So if you do not lead it, it will lead you. And this is where most people misunderstand freedom. They believe freedom means no structure. But true freedom is not absence of discipline, it is born from it. A person ruled by impulse is not free. A person who cannot finish what they start is not free. Freedom is the ability to act according to what you value, not what you feel. And that only comes from training your mind like you would train a muscle. Slowly, repetitively, with respect for the process. So how do you train that mind? Start by removing negotiation. If you decide to write. Do not open the conversation about how you feel. If you decide to work out, move. Do not consult your emotions. This does not mean you ignore your body. It means you do not give your momentary feelings power over your long-term direction. Epictetus taught that external events are not in our control, but our choices are. So when you feel tired, you can still choose to do something. When you feel unmotivated, you can still begin. That is power. Quiet, steady, unshakable power. It helps to create what I call disciplined triggers, small signals that initiate action. For example, if you want to read every evening, place your book on your pillow each morning. If you want to start meditating, leave your mat near the door. These cues reduce resistance. They make action automatic. Your environment should serve your effort. Rearrange it. Remove friction. Set the path of least resistance toward the behavior you want, not the one you are trying to avoid. Let me tell you about a soldier who once trained under Napoleon. He was not the strongest, not the fastest, not even the most gifted. But he was consistent. Every day at the same time, he sharpened his blade, polished his boots, practiced his drills, quietly, without recognition. One day, in the chaos of battle when others panicked, he moved with precision. He had trained discipline into his bones. That is what this is about. Not applause, not validation, but readiness. You'll never know when life will call upon the version of you are preparing right now. Because life will test you. It will interrupt your plans, delay your goals, offer temptations, present fatigue. And when it does, your habits are your defense. If your habits are weak, your resolve will collapse. But if you have built your discipline with care, with patience, it will hold. Even in the storm. Especially in the storm. This is why your relationship with discomfort matters. Do not run from it. Embrace it. Not all at once. Slowly. Deliberately. Begin by doing one thing each day that stretches you. That may be taking a cold shower. Saying no when you usually say yes. Finishing the task you would rather abandon. These moments are not punishment. They are purification. They remind your nervous system that discomfort is not danger. It is growth. And when you do slip, and you will do not retreat into self-judgment. That is not discipline. That is ego. Discipline is humble. It says, I fell. I learn. I rise. Seneca said, no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. For he is not permitted to prove himself. Your slips are invitations to recommit, not reasons to quit. Your goal is not perfection. It is participation. Show up. Again and again. With grace. With grit. With an eye toward who you are becoming. You may wonder, how long will this take? When will discipline feel natural? The truth is, it may never feel easy. But it will feel familiar. And then eventually, it will feel essential. Like air. Like water. Like sleep. It becomes part of your identity. You no longer think about it. You simply do it. That is when you know the work is working. If you feel overwhelmed, start here. For the next 7 days, choose one discipline anchor. Just one. Maybe it is waking at a set hour. Writing a single sentence. How many years have passed where you promised yourself change, but drifted back into comfort? This time, it's different because you're still here. You're listening, you're learning, And most importantly, you're not quitting. And that's what separates wishful thinking from real transformation. Walking for 10 minutes without your phone. Whatever you choose, protect it like it matters. Because it does. That one act is the seed. Water it. Watch it grow. Let it change you. And finally, never forget what you are really building. You are not building habits. You are building character. You are not building a schedule. You are building a self. One that can endure failure. One that can navigate chaos. One that can be trusted with time, with responsibility, with life. If these words help you see your power more clearly, pass them on. Someone else is waiting for the courage you just found. There is a quiet kind of suffering that many people carry. It does not scream. It does not draw attention. It looks like delay. Like indecision. Like waking up with plans and going to sleep with regrets. It is the ache of wasted potential, the heavy knowing that you are capable of more, but not quite becoming it. And for most, this burden becomes normal. The days blur. Goals are recycled. Excuses evolve. But something inside you still remembers. That flicker of clarity. That glimpse of who you could be if only you are followed through. That memory is your invitation. Discipline is how you answer it. You do not need another productivity hack. You need alignment. A way of living where your actions reflect your values, not your moods. That is what discipline really is. It is the decision to act on what matters, not what is easy. To do what needs to be done, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Because that is where self-respect is forged. When you keep promises to yourself that no one else will ever know about. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That quote alone could reshape a life. It reminds us that discipline is not about debate. It is about action. You already know what you need to do. The question is, will you do it? That is where the internal war begins, not between you and the world, but between the part of you that wants growth and the part of you that craves comfort. And both parts are human. Both deserve compassion. But only one deserves leadership. Discipline is when your higher self leads. Not forcefully. Not cruelly. But clearly. With a firm hand and a compassionate voice. Like a wise mentor guiding a restless student. That is how you must speak to yourself. Not with punishment, but with purpose. Let us talk about identity for a moment. Because every disciplined person you admire does not rely on motivation. They rely on who they believe they are. That belief fuels behavior. If you see yourself as someone who follows through, you will. If you see yourself as someone who always breaks habits, you will. Your identity is the thermostat. Your actions are the temperature. If they do not match, the system corrects itself. That is why real change begins not with goals, but with identity. So begin here, say it aloud. I am someone who honors my commitments. I am someone who finishes what I start. Let those words feel awkward. Say them anyway. Say them until they no longer sound foreign. Then act in alignment, even if just for 5 minutes a day. Your mind listens to your behavior more than your intentions. So, give it evidence. Prove to yourself that you are changing not in theory, but in practice. One tool that accelerates this process is the non-negotiable list. Choose 3 behaviors that align with who you want to become. These are not tasks. They are identity markers. For example, I move my body daily. I write something meaningful each morning. I do not check my phone before sunrise. These rules become your code. They are not goals to chase. They are standards to embody. Over time, this code becomes your compass. When you are tired, it reminds you. When you are distracted, it anchors you. When you forget, it brings you back. This is how discipline becomes automatic, not through pressure, but through pattern. Let me share a simple truth that few people realize: your brain is not built to chase success. It is built to avoid pain and seek familiarity. That is why change feels so hard. It is not because you are incapable. It is because your mind is protecting you from discomfort. But discomfort is where the expansion lies. The life you want is on the other side of that temporary resistance. Every time you step through it, you widen the range of who you are. That is why exposure matters. If something scares you, face it in small doses. Speak up. Wake up early. Delay gratification. Each of these is a tiny rebellion against the comfort that keeps you small. And the more you expose yourself to discipline, the more it becomes your default setting. You are not fragile. You are simply unused to the weight of your own power. Discipline reveals it. Slowly. Relentlessly. Through practice, not perfection. Through showing up, not showing off. Through the 1,000 quiet choices that no one will clap for, but that your future self will thank you for. And when the world becomes loud, when distractions compete for your attention, return to breath. One breath. One pause. One moment to remember this is your life. Your day. Your choice. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins with awareness. Awareness of your patterns. Awareness of your power. Awareness of the fact that every moment is a vote for the person you are becoming. So vote wisely. You do not need to win every moment. But you must stay in the arena. You must keep casting votes for discipline, for alignment, for the life that whispers your name when the world is quiet. If this message grounded you, anchor it by sharing it with someone who needs it. You never know how deeply one quiet truth can change a life. Some days you wake up and it feels like the world is already ahead of you. Notifications buzz. Obligations wait. The pressure to perform, respond, deliver, it all begins before your feet touch the floor. In that moment you have two choices: to react or to reclaim. That choice, made repeatedly daily, is where discipline lives. It is not in the intensity of your goals, but in the intimacy of your rituals. In how you meet your mornings. In how you protect your first hour. In how you refuse to give your peace away before you even earn your breath. Discipline begins with sovereignty over your time, your thoughts, your energy. And yet, so many people surrender these things before breakfast. Not because they are weak, but because they have not decided what matters. And in the absence of clarity, urgency always wins. The email gets answered. The feed gets scrolled. The habit gets delayed. And slowly, so quietly, your life becomes a reflection of everything urgent but nothing important. Marcus Aurelius warned himself daily could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. This was not morbid. It was clarifying. If today were your last, would you waste it checking for likes? Would you start and abandon the same goal again? Or would you treat your time as sacred because that is what discipline really is, a sacred arrangement between your values and your actions? If you struggle to stay consistent, it is likely because you are living from the outside in, letting the world dictate what gets your attention. But true discipline begins when you flip that. When you move from the inside out. When your intentions shape your behavior, not your impulses. That begins with structure. You must create containers for your life. Morning and evening rituals. Time blocks for focused work. Boundaries for rest. These containers give shape to your freedom. Without them, your energy spills everywhere. With them, it flows in the direction you choose. And it is not about rigidity. It is about rhythm. Imagine a drumbeat beneath your die, a quiet pulse that brings you back when the world gets loud. That is what a routine is. Not a cage, but a compass. A way to return to yourself when you drift. Start with the morning. This is where momentum begins. Before you check your phone. Before you respond to the world. Sit. Breathe. Move. Reflect. Choose 3 intentions, 1 for the body, 1 for the mind, 1 for your purpose. Write them down. These are your daily compass points. Then guard them fiercely. Then comes the work. Whatever your craft, your mission, your current duty, approach it with full presence. Turn off distractions. Set a timer. Focus on one task. Discipline is not about doing everything. It is about doing what matters fully. 1 thing done well is better than 10 things rushed. And when resistance rises, as it will, remind yourself, this is the moment that builds me. Not the easy moment. This one. The one where I want to quit. The one where my old habits claw back. If I can stay here, I grow here. Take breaks with intention. Not to escape, but to reset. A walk. A glass of water. A breath. Your brain needs space to integrate, not more noise to consume. This is the overlooked discipline, stillness. And then your evening. This is the ritual that closes the loop. Reflect on your day. Ask, did I live today aligned with my values? No shame. No judgment. Just data. Write down 1 win. 1 loss. 1 thing you are grateful for. This 5-minute habit will shape your self-awareness more than any book. But here is the thing, none of this works if you do not believe you are worthy of the life discipline creates. Many people sabotage their habits because deep down, they feel they do not deserve success, clarity, or peace. This is where the deeper work begins. The work of self-regard. Of treating yourself like someone worth showing up for. Someone worth keeping promises to. Someone worth investing in. That is what discipline is, self-respect in motion. Not self-denial. Not self-punishment. But self-respect. The daily choice to become someone you can be proud of when the room is empty and the mirror is honest. And yes, it will be hard. You will fail. You will slip. But that is not the end. It is part of the practice. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Let your difficulties be teachers. Let them shape your resilience. Each time you return after falling, your discipline deepens. Your identity hardens. Your future becomes sturdier. Do not wait for a perfect week. Begin now. With what you have. Where you are. Begin messy. Begin small. Just begin. And when the voice of doubt returns, and it will let your actions be louder than your excuses. That is the language of discipline. That is how your story changes, not in one heroic act, but in the 1,000 invisible choices that no one else sees but you. If these words reminded you of who you are becoming, share them with someone who needs that reminder too. Together, we grow stronger. There is a moment, often unnoticed, where your future is being decided. It is not during a major crisis. It is not when everyone is watching. It happens in silence, when you are alone, tired, maybe bored. You feel the urge to escape, to give in, to delay just a little longer. There is a version of you in 2025 that looks back at this moment and smiles. Because this is when it started, when you chose discipline over distraction, purpose over pressure. Keep listening. You are not just passing time, you are reshaping your future with every word. And in that tiny window, you are either voting for your old self or your future self. Discipline lives in that moment. Not in inspiration. In interception. In the pause before the slip. Most people are not undisciplined because they lack strength. They are undisciplined because they never interrupt the loop. That loop, the habit of avoidance, of comfort, of delay, is not personal. It is a program. And like any program, it can be rewritten. But only if you are aware enough to notice when it begins to run. That is the work, not to try harder, but to see clearer. Let us break this down. Every habit has 3 components: a cue, a behavior, and a reward. The cue is the trigger. The behavior is the action. The reward is what your brain thinks it gained. Most of your self-minus destructive patterns follow this loop. Stress triggers the cue. You scroll your phone. The reward is momentary escape. But what if, instead of trying to break the habit through willpower, you redesign the loop? Begin by replacing, not removing, the behavior. Keep the cue. Keep the reward. Change the middle. If stress is your cue, and you want relief, what else can give you that same feeling without destroying your focus? I walk. A breath. Writing for 5 minutes. That is how discipline becomes doable. You stop fighting yourself. You redirect yourself. Epictetus said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." The same is true for your habits. First learn why you do what you do, then redesign. Discipline without self-minus knowledge is like driving blindfolded. You might move fast, but you will crash eventually. Know your patterns. Name them. Then choose them or change them consciously. Let us talk about friction. Bad habits grow in low-minus friction environments. If your phone is beside your bed, you will scroll. If junk food is in your kitchen, you will eat it. The easiest choice always wins. So change what is easy. Make good habits easier to start. Make bad habits harder to access. Put your phone in another room. Unplug your TV. Lay out your gym clothes the night before. This is not about willpower. It is about architecture. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your intentions do. Most people try to change internally while everything around them stays the same. That is a setup for failure. Rearrange your life to match your goals. Discipline, at its core, is not just about pushing through, it is about making the right choice the obvious one. Now let us explore the mental landscape. Because discipline is not just external. It is deeply internal. It is shaped by how you speak to yourself, how you recover from failure, how you interpret setbacks. Most people fail not from lack of ability, but from how they talk to themselves after failing once. The voice becomes cruel. You blew it. You always do. Why even try again? That voice is not your truth. It is your trauma. It is the residue of past pain, fear, and shame. And if you keep listening to it, you will keep sabotaging your progress. So speak to yourself like someone you care about, like someone you are responsible for. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. That suffering the self minus condemnation is optional." And discipline becomes sustainable when you remove that layer of inner cruelty. You are not your habits. You are the one who chooses them. And you can choose again, as many times as it takes. That is the grace of discipline. It forgives quickly. It forgets failure. It only asks, will you begin again? If yes, it welcomes you without resentment. Let me offer you something powerful. A reset ritual. A simple act you perform whenever you fall off track. It could be 3 deep breaths, a handwritten note, I begin again, a cold splash of water, a quiet prayer. This ritual is your return point. It makes recovery automatic. And over time you will recover faster. You will stop spiraling. You will rebound with strength. This is what separates the truly disciplined from the rest. Not that they never fall, but that they return quicker, cleaner, calmer. They do not allow one broken habit to define the next 10. They remember this is a long game. And all progress is built on staying in the game. So let us zoom out. What are you really building? Not just habits. You are building trust with yourself. And that trust compounds. Every promise you keep adds a brick to the foundation. Every reset strengthens the structure. Eventually, you will wake up and realize, I do not chase discipline anymore. I live it. It is who I am. And here is a final truth for today: the pain of discipline is real. But so is the pain of regret. And only one of them leads to freedom. One shrinks you. The other expands you. One delays your potential. The other unlocks it. So when it gets hardened, it will ask yourself, which pain do I want to live with? If this message reminded you of your strength, do not keep it to yourself. Share it. Let it move forward. Let it multiply. There is a quiet moment in the life of every person trying to build self-discipline. It is the moment after progress when you expect to feel proud but instead feel empty. You hit your milestone. You kept your habit. You stayed consistent. But instead of celebration, there is silence. No applause. No transformation. Just another ordinary day. And it is right here that most people stop. Not because it is too hard, but because it is too quiet. They expected discipline to feel dramatic. But real discipline is subtle, boring, repetitive, unseen. And this is its greatest test. Because the truth is, there is no final reward. No ultimate finish line. Discipline is not something you achieve. It is something you maintain. A way of being. A lifestyle of choosing what matters over what tempts. And that lifestyle can be lonely. But it is also sacred. Because while the world rushes after distraction, you are choosing depth. Marcus Aurelius knew this loneliness. He ruled an empire, yet wrote to himself daily, not to others. His meditations were reminders. Not because he was weak, but because he was wise enough to know that the mind drifts. Even great men forget. That is why you must return to your discipline daily, not because you failed, but because you are human. Let us talk about emotional endurance. Discipline is often discussed like a mechanical thing: routines, goals, time blocks. But beneath it all is emotional stamina. The ability to feel discomfort without needing to escape it. The ability to keep going when your motivation dies, when your mood crashes, when your results are invisible. That is the secret layer of discipline most never speak about. The inner strength to endure without external validation. Seneca wrote that we suffer not from the task itself, but from the stories we tell about it. You dread the gym not because it is hard, but because you believe you should feel energized. You resent the early wake minus up not because of fatigue, but because you expected it to feel purposeful. Discipline becomes easier when you remove the fantasy. When you stop expecting reward and simply embrace the routine. And here's a paradox: the less you expect results, the more likely you are to sustain the effort. Because your actions are no longer tied to outcomes, they are tied to identity. You write because you are a writer. You train because you are an athlete. You focus because you are someone who respects their own time. That internal shift from performance to personhood is what makes discipline sustainable. To strengthen this identity, you need rituals. Not tasks. Rituals. Small, sacred moments that bring you back to your values. A 60-second cold shower. A quiet journal entry. Lighting a candle before you write. These moments are not productive in the conventional sense, but they remind you of who you are. And in a world that constantly asks you to prove yourself, reminding yourself is powerful. But let us be honest. There will be seasons where your discipline breaks. Where illness, heartbreak, burnout, or crisis knock you off course. And in those seasons, you must shift your measure. Instead of asking, did I do it perfectly? Ask, did I stay connected to who I want to be? Sometimes, the most disciplined thing you can do is rest. Not because you are quitting, but because you are preserving your ability to continue. Epictetus said, do not explain your philosophy. Embody it. This means there will be no need to justify your standards to others. They will see it. In how you move. In what you refuse. In how calmly you return after chaos. Your discipline will speak louder than your declarations. And when it does, it becomes contagious. People around you feel it. They begin to respect it even if they do not understand it. And yet do not seek admiration. Seek alignment. Every time you act in harmony with your values, you quiet the noise within. That peace, that clarity, that is the real prize. Not applause. Not aesthetics. Alignment. The feeling of knowing I am doing what I said I would. That is priceless. Let me offer you something more concrete now. A for minus question nightly check minus in. Just for questions. Answer them honestly, even briefly. 1. What did I do well today? 2. Where did I drift? 3. What emotion ruled most of my day? For what will I do tomorrow to improve by 1%? If you found this video valuable and meaningful, please consider sharing it. You never know, it might help someone who truly needs it. They are about calibration. And when asked consistently, they build internal precision. Because discipline, in the end, is not rigidity. It is rhythm. Not control, but calibration. You adjust, re-align, evolve. Just like a pilot makes hundreds of micro- corrections during a flight. From the outside it looks steady. But inside, it is a dance. And that is how your disciplined life must be. A quiet dance between intention and adjustment. If today you feel like giving up, pause. Reconnect with why you began. Not for results, but for respect. Not for speed, but for truth. And then start small. One task. One ritual. One vote for the person you are becoming. Let the rest go. If this message steadied something inside you, share it. Help someone else feel less alone in the quiet work of becoming. Some mornings feel heavier than others. Not because the world has changed, but because something inside you is unsettled. You wake up already tired. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally. The weight of unfinished tasks, unspoken doubts, and the lingering sense that you are still behind. And in those moments, discipline can feel like a burden, like one more thing demanding your strength. But this is exactly where discipline reveals its true gift. Because when everything feels unstable, discipline is your anchor. Your proof that something inside you is still steady. The people who live with clarity are not the ones who never struggle. They are the ones who have built habits strong enough to survive their moods. Discipline is what carries you when motivation disappears. And it will disappear. Often. That is not a flaw in you. That is how emotions work. They rise and fall like tides. Discipline is the lighthouse. Always there. Always steady. Especially when the waters are rough. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayal, and constant pressure, yet each day he wrote to himself. Why? Not for public record, but for clarity, for peace. He was reminding himself of what he could control: his mind, his choices, his character. And that is the foundation of daily discipline. Not the illusion of control over the world, but command over your own behavior, no matter what the world brings. Let us talk about resistance. That invisible force that pulls you away from what you said you would do. It is not laziness. It is fear disguised. Fear of failure. Fear of effort with no result. Fear of not being good enough. Resistance does not show up with a name tag. It hides in delay and distraction, in rationalizing that now is not the right time. But here is the secret: the right time never comes. You bring it into being through action. So the question is not, do I feel ready? It is, am I willing to begin regardless of how I feel? That question changes everything. Because discipline is not about feeling like it, it is about doing it anyway. The moment you act without needing emotional permission is the moment you start to reclaim power over your life. Now, there is a difference between force and flow. Many people think discipline is about force. But real discipline is about direction. It is knowing what matters and moving toward it with calm, steady force. Not rushed. Not frantic. Think of a river cutting through rock. It does not rage. It flows with time, with power, with inevitability. Let your habits be like that river. To do that, you must simplify. Most people fail not because they aim too low, but because they aim too wide. They try to fix everything at once. That leads to overwhelm. And overwhelm leads to paralysis. Discipline thrives on focus. Choose one area of your life to bring into order. Just one. Maybe it is your mornings. Maybe it is your health. Maybe it is your digital distractions. Whatever it is, begin there. Master it. Then expand. Use constraints. Give yourself less time, fewer choices, tighter boundaries. This may feel limiting, but it actually increases your clarity. Constraints remove noise. They force you to focus. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Constraints create freedom because they eliminate the illusion that you must do everything, be everywhere, say yes to everyone. One of the greatest practices of daily discipline is the start time, not the finish time. Not the deadline. The start. Choose a time each day to begin your work, whatever that means for you. And protect that time like a sacred appointment. Show up to it, even if you are tired. Even if you are uninspired. The simple act of starting builds momentum. And momentum makes discipline easier to sustain. Now let us address relapse. Because even the most disciplined people relapse. They skip days. Fall back into old patterns. But what they do differently is how they respond. They do not catastrophize. They do not make it mean more than it does. They course correct fast. One mistake is a moment. Two becomes a pattern. Your job is not to avoid all slips. Your job is to stop the second one. So create a relapse ritual. Hey, what now plan? When you miss a habit, follow it with something small that reconnects you. A 5-minute walk. A journal line. A breath. That micro-act tells your brain we are still in the game, and that message sent over and over is how you stay consistent for years, not just weeks. And in all this, do not forget rest. Rest is not the enemy of discipline. It is part of it. Rest on purpose. Guilt-free. Define your stop time just as clearly as your start. Because discipline without recovery becomes burnout. And burnout breaks the very system you are trying to build. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." This means discipline is not just about building a future. It is about protecting your peace in the present. When your actions are aligned, you feel at ease even in the middle of effort. That is what we are after. Not perfection, but presence. So here is your practice tonight. Choose your one focus for tomorrow. Define your start time. Set up your environment to support it. And make a commitment not to the result, but to the action. Say clearly, I will begin at this time. No negotiation. No delay. Then show up. Let your presence be your proof. And if this voice reminded you of the calm that comes from consistency, pass it on. The world does not need louder noise. It needs deeper rhythm. By now, the myth of sudden transformation should be fading. You know it, the fantasy that one day you will wake up completely changed. All habits fixed. All goals achieved. All clarity present. But here is the truth: no one wakes up transformed. They wake up trained. Trained by the 1,000 quiet choices made when no one was watching. Trained by the small disciplines stacked and repeated until they become identity. If you are still chasing a breakthrough, you are missing the power of what you are building slowly, steadily right now. Discipline is not the lightning strike. It is the slow burn. The ember that refuses to die, even in wind. And if you have been walking this path, if you have failed and returned, doubted and recommitted, then understand you are already becoming. It may not be obvious yet. The scale may not show it. The inbox may still be full. The results may still be quiet. But something deeper is shifting your relationship with effort. Your ability to begin and begin again. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He was not speaking metaphorically. He was describing the mechanism of discipline. The obstacle, laziness, distraction, fear is not an enemy. It is the invitation. The very presence of resistance means you are at the edge of expansion. And that edge is where discipline sharpens. But sharpening is not passive. It is an act of design. So now it is time to refine your system. Because random action leads to random results. Structure does not restrict you. It focuses you. If your mornings are chaotic, start there. Create a 5-step sequence you follow without fail. Wake. Hydrate. Move. Focus. Begin. Keep it simple. Let it become automatic. When in doubt, return to the sequence. It is not just what you do, it is how you reset. Discipline loves simplicity. Most people complicate their routines in the name of optimization. 10 hacks. 5 apps. 12 new strategies. But all of it means nothing if you do not do the thing. Reduce your goals to their essence. Want to get fit? Move daily. Want to write? Sit and write. Want to grow? Read and reflect. Strip the process to what matters most. Then repeat. And when boredom shows up, and it will understand this boredom is not a problem. It is proof. Proof that your mind is detoxing from dopamine. Proof that you are settling into real focus. The most disciplined people are not immune to boredom. They are just fluent in it. They understand that boredom is the gate you must pass through before depth arrives. So do not run from the dull days. The uninspired reps. The workouts that feel routine. The work sessions where no magic appears. Those are the bricks. The ones no one sees. But without them, the foundation cracks. Your job is not to chase novelty. It is to stay. Stay in the work. Stay in the silence. Stay long enough for excellence to emerge. This brings us to one of the most powerful forces in daily discipline: delayed gratification. The ability to trade now for later. But not later as in years. Later as in hours. In moments. The momentary pause before reacting. The decision to finish a task before checking your phone. The choice to prepare a real meal instead of grabbing a snack. These micro-delays are not small. They are sacred. Every time you choose later wisely, you strengthen the muscle of patience. And patience, practiced daily, becomes confidence. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Discipline is time reclamation. It is how you stop the slow leak of energy into things that do not matter. But to stop the leak, you must know where it is. Audit your day. What are the 2 hours that slip away unnoticed? Is it morning? Evening? The post-minus lunch drift. Identify it. Then reclaim it. Not by force, but by replacing it with intention. Let us talk about intentional discomfort. Not suffering for its own sake, but practiced resistance. Cold showers. Fasting. Silence. Rejection. Each of these builds capacity. Not just physically, but mentally. When you invite discomfort, you stop fearing it. And when you stop fearing it, you move faster through challenge. Most people avoid pain their entire lives. The discipline train with it. And as your capacity grows, so does your influence. Not just in your work, but in your presence. People feel something in someone who is self-minus disciplined. There is a steadiness. A gravity. They are not easily pulled. Not reactive. Not always available. Because they are governed by something stronger than impulse. That is what you are building. Not just habits. Not just results. But a way of being that others can trust in, that you can trust in yourself. Trust is the real reward. Not achievement. Trust. The ability to believe your own words. To know that when you say, I will, you will. That is rare. And powerful. And it is available to you not through hope but through practice. So here is the practice tonight. Write down one moment you handled well today. One moment you slipped. And one moment tomorrow where you will choose differently. That reflection done consistently becomes the architecture of discipline. Not perfect days, but examined days. Lived with intention. And if you feel like this message brought you back to yourself, pass it on. Someone you know is one reminder away from beginning again. You are closer than you think. That is the quiet truth most people never hear. They feel stuck, so they assume they are far behind. But in reality, most people are not failing from lack of progress, they are failing from lack of perspective. They forget to zoom out. They forget that small efforts add up. Not every disciplined decision is a brick. And even when you cannot see the structure rising, it is. That is why your consistency matters more than your intensity. Most of the time, it is not the big changes that transform your life, it is the small actions done with care. The repeated behaviors that seem insignificant at the time, but silently shape your future. And this is where discipline wins in the realm of the ordinary. When no one is watching. When it would be easy to coast. When excuses seem reasonable. When progress is invisible. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You should be more straightforward and simple in your actions." That simplicity is not about doing less, it is about doing what matters. The disciplined person does not waste motion. They do not need to prove anything. They simply act because they have already decided who they are. Every day becomes a vote for that decision. So what are you voting for today? With your attention. With your habits. With your energy. Discipline means answering that question on purpose. And it also means subtracting. Most people try to build discipline by adding more and more tasks, more tools, more pressure. But the truth is, most of us are not overworked, we are over-minus distracted. You do not need more hours. You need fewer leaks. Audit your day. Again. Ask, where am I being pulled? What habits drain your focus without giving value in return? What relationships blur your direction? What apps, shows, or routines no longer align with your vision? Cut one. Just one. Not because it is bad, but because it is blocking your clarity. Every subtraction makes your direction more visible. Now let us talk about internal resistance again. Because it does not go away. Even now, even this far in the journey, there will be days you do not want to do the work. Days when your discipline feels like a distant memory. That is not failure. That is training. Every professional, every disciplined person you admire feels it too. But they have learned to detach from their moods. To act regardless. That is the essence of mastery. One of the best ways to move through resistance is with micro-minus commitments. Do not promise to write for an hour. Promise to open the document. Do not promise to meditate for 20 minutes. Promise to sit for 2. Reduce the scale until you cannot fail. Then begin. Because the beginning is the bottleneck. Once in motion, most people keep going. The real struggle is not in doing the work, it is in starting it. This is why routines matter. They remove the decision. They replace hesitation with momentum. If every morning you put on the same shoes, sit in the same spot, drink from the same mug, your brain begins to associate those cues with action. And soon, action feels automatic. That is the power of ritual. It bypasses resistance. But rituals are not just for the morning. Create them for transitions. After work, stretch, journal, walk. Before sleep, dim the lights, read a page, review your day. These transitions help your brain switch gears. They create structure. And in structure, discipline breathes. Now let us go deeper. Because there is a question many people avoid, but you must face. What am I afraid might happen if I actually follow through? Strange question, right? But often people sabotage their discipline not because they fear failure, but because they fear success. Because success brings new standards, new identity, new pressure. And not everyone is ready to let go of who they were. But you must. You cannot carry the past and move freely into the future. Epictetus said, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That means growth will make you feel uncomfortable, maybe even out of place. But that discomfort is evidence. Evidence that you are moving beyond your old limits. That you are becoming someone else. Not better than others. Just better aligned with your truth. So here is your reminder: the cost of discipline is discomfort. The cost of freedom is effort. The cost of clarity is saying no. But the reward? The reward is a life you can trust. A mind you can rely on. A body you care for. A path that belongs to you. And you build that reward daily. Let us return to something tangible. Your daily reset phrase. One line you say when you feel yourself drifting. It could be return to rhythm, or small step now, or the next right thing. Choose your phrase. Repeat it when you wake. When you delay. When you feel tempted. Let it be the rope that pulls you back. Because you will drift. That is not a flaw. That is gravity. But you have tools now. Habits. Rituals. A clearer sense of why you began. Use them. Not perfectly. just persistently. And tonight before you sleep, ask yourself, what did I do today that honored who I am becoming? That question, asked consistently, will change your life. Because it shifts your focus from outcome to alignment, from pressure to purpose. If this reflection brought something to life in you, pass it forward. Discipline is not meant to be walked alone. It grows stronger in community, in shared language, in mutual fire. If you have made it this far, you already know something most people do not. Discipline is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering who you were meant to be. Beneath the distractions, beneath the doubts, beneath the habits that kept you small, there is a version of you that is clear, focused, grounded. That version has always been there, waiting not for permission, but for action. This entire journey, every step of discipline, is a return. Not to perfection, but to wholeness. You are not fixing yourself. You are aligning with yourself. Choosing what matters over what distracts. Choosing to act when it would be easier to delay. Choosing to show up, not because you feel ready, but because you promised yourself you would. That is what builds character. That is what earns trust. That is what makes life feel solid again. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself under the weight of empire, said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Discipline is how you honor that privilege. It is not a burden. It is a blessing. The ability to choose your response, to shape your day, to design a life that does not drift with the wind. You have seen by now that discipline is not one thing, it is many small things. A series of decisions. A rhythm of returns. A quiet resolve. You do not need to overhaul your life. You only need to return, moment by moment, to what you said matters. That return, that's where the power is. That's where your life changes, not in a dramatic act, but in a single choice repeated until it becomes second nature. There will be days where you forget. That is not failure. That is part of the pattern. The key is to shorten the distance between the slip and the return. To fall without spiraling. To reset without shame. Seneca once said, "No man was ever wise by chance. Wisdom is built." So is self minus discipline. Layer by layer. Repetition by repetition. You are not falling behind. You are learning how to begin again better. Let us reflect on what this journey has given you. You now understand that every moment is a vote. Every action reinforces identity. That the body listens to ritual more than resolution. That your brain craves clarity more than intensity. That systems beat willpower. And that boredom is not the enemy, it is the doorway to depth. You have tools. Anchors. Reset phrases. Morning frameworks. Recovery rituals. You have practiced stepping into discomfort. You have seen the value of simplicity. Of slowing down to focus. Of subtracting instead of adding. These are not just productivity tricks. These are the bones of a deliberate life. But perhaps the most powerful thing you now carry is this self minus respect. Not the kind that comes from praise or success, but the quiet, steady kind. The kind that says, "I trust myself to show up." That is the ultimate goal of self minus discipline. Not control. Not perfection. but self minus respect. And when you live with that, your presence changes. You are no longer frantic. You are no longer searching for shortcuts. You are not chasing approval. You move with weight, with calm, with clarity. Others will feel it. And you will feel it most when you are alone, when no one is watching, and you still keep your word. From here, the work continues. Not harder, just deeper. You do not need more motivation. You need more remembering. Remember who you are, what matters to you, why you began. When doubt shows up, remind yourself doubt is just a signal, not a stop sign. When resistance rises, smile at it. It means you are moving in the right direction. And when people ask how you changed, you will not need a dramatic story. You will simply say, I decided. And then, I showed up. Again and again, that is all. That is everything. Your journey forward is not a straight line. It is a spiral. Returning again and again to the same lessons, but each time from a higher vantage point. More practiced. More patient. More present. So here at the end of this message, in the beginning of your next chapter, remember this: the strongest people are not the loudest. They are the most consistent. The ones who stay. The ones who keep choosing. The ones who get up not just once but always. And if this journey has brought you back to something sacred within you, share it. Let someone else hear what you needed. A single word can become a turning point. Be that word for someone. Thank you for staying. Thank you for showing up. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Write one thing down that you'll start doing this week. 2025 doesn't magically change anything you do. And your future begins the moment you decide to move, even just a little.